Hey, everybody, welcome to the Darksliders podcast. This is Doug and Brad with you for episode 2. We have a name now, so that's a good start. We'd like to thank everybody for the feedback and all the followers we got on Twitter this past week or so. Hopefully, you noticed some improvement from the last episode. We fixed, hopefully, our audio problem, so this should sound a little bit better than what we had last week. But we'll get into some games and stuff here. So, Doug, what have you been playing this past week?
Uh, well, this is gonna be another PS Plus game. I actually been playing Kick and Fennik, which is a Vita game, which I didn't know anything about before playing. I just what I'd heard is like, oh, it's this game that has kind of a cool jumping mechanic, and that was about it. I actually beat the game. How far did you get?
I started playing it too, and I made it about. I was about halfway through chapter 2, so I think that's maybe 10 or 12 levels.
Yeah, I this is. I guess I'll do like just a quick intro to like what this game is for people who haven't played it. Uh, this game is just it's a platformer that has kind of an interesting setup. You're a little boy who is stuck in some sort of post-apocalyptic machine-run world, and you find a railgun and a robot, and it's a kids game based around that concept. It's a boy and his railgun and his little toy robot, and they go through this post-apocalyptic robot apocalypse, and you're the thing that I didn't actually like about the game is that's the whole story. Like, there's nothing else to the story. I think you're supposed to be fixing the robot's broken light, but that's it. There's no more story. There's no more side characters. There's maybe 3 enemy types throughout the entire game, but that doesn't matter. What's kind of cool is the jumping mechanic. So how the jumping mechanic works is that you have a giant railgun and you jump based on the recoil from the gun. So you actually point the gun away from where you want to go. So like if I want to go up, you have to shoot the gun into the ground. If I want to go like left, you have to shoot the gun right, and so on and so forth. And if you're standing on the ground, you can actually use the gun to shoot at enemies and things like that. So it's actually kind of a cool concept. Um, Brad, you said you stopped around like World 2. Why'd you stop? Because I think
I just got bored. I think
yeah,
what you
yeah.
mentioned is all good, and it does have a different mechanic than I've seen in a lot of other games, and just the whole recoil aspect definitely changes things. But just everything I'd seen up to that point was just the same, and it was the same as level 1 as it was in, I don't know, I think it was maybe 12 or 13 levels in that I stopped, and it just at no point did I see any evolution of anything. At no point did I see any change in anything. It was just the same thing over and over again. And then we talked briefly about it, and you said, yeah, that's kind of it. So
Yeah.
at that point, I was like, well, if I'm bored already, I don't really want to sit here and spend another 2 or 3 hours just doing the same old thing. Um, I do I do like the mechanic though. Like you said, it was interesting. And at the point I was, it did start to change a little bit. I think I got to like you could get a power shot, and it made like your distance that you flew from recoil further. So were there more of those as you went through?
No, actually, you basically what happens is the only mechanics that are added are a bounce pad and some lasers that can kill you. This is one of those games that actually doesn't really come into like the full concept until I guess around like chapter 4 or 5, like really near the end when it starts getting like a lot more complex. And I think the game gets fun around that point. But like you said, like there's not a lot of change to the environment. There's the graphics not the graphics, the art style stays almost exactly the same. You fight the exact same enemies. It's just the level configurations that change. So you have these really cool level configurations at the end, but again, there's no story, there's no motivation to continue. Which I guess is kind of a big point for both of us. We both kind of like our story and our characters, and this game doesn't really have doesn't it's not that it doesn't have a story, it's just that it doesn't really have a motivation to keep going, except just to see the next level. And granted, the levels do get much better near the end, but like Brad, you kind of stopped around chapter 2. Like it is a slog through like chapter 2 and 3, and then like even a little bit into 4, and the game's only like 5 chapters long.
Yeah.
So
Well, and you mentioned the story too. Like there is no anything. It's pretty much just you show up. There's a gun. You pick up the gun. A robot shows up. Game starts. There's no voiceover. There's no dialogue. There's no text on the
yeah,
screen. It's just you have a gun. You're a boy. There's a robot. Enjoy.
yeah. Yeah, and like it's not even like a minimalist story. Like there's some like Journey and stuff is a really good minimalist
Yeah.
story that's told through animation and storytelling. And this game just doesn't have any of it. But I mean, it is like a gameplay oriented game. But it's a gameplay oriented game that doesn't get really good until the last quarter of it or last third of the game. So I don't know. I actually did enjoy my time with it. I think it's one of those games that if you got bored around, say, like chapter two, kind of like Brad did, I would say just kind of push through it if you're a kind of person who's like willing to maybe invest a little bit more time into a game before it gets good. Um, but like I said, the art doesn't really change, story doesn't really change. But the mechanic is really, really cool, and they use it. They use it, I would say, like to the full extent that you possibly could use this mechanic, especially in later levels when it comes really effing hard.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I didn't get that far into it, but everything I played through was really easy too. I mean, I got to one point, and the point where I finally turned it off is the one point I actually happened to die, and I went, well, I was bored anyway, so I'll turn this off. But I mean, I made it through the first 14 levels without getting any challenge at all. And again, if it's a gameplay
Yeah.
oriented game, I at least want it to be difficult.
Yeah, it gets like surprisingly difficult at the end for how easy it starts at the beginning. Like there's like a huge difficulty ramp like right near the end. I was dying like a lot in chapter 5 and I was just blazing through chapters 1 through 3. I feel like we're kind of repeating ourselves though. This game is a really neat mechanic. It takes a long time before it actually starts like come to fruition. The game actually starts to become difficult and challenging. But if you stick with it, I think it's a decent game in the end. I think it's a decent third of a game. That's a terrible thing to say about a game. It's not a 3 out of 10 game. It's much better than that.
We're doing scores now.
No, we're not. No, we are never doing
We
scores.
need to get a scale up there and start talking about what it means.
No, we're just God. We're just gonna talk about how much we like a game and if we didn't like it, and then that's it.
Yeah.
End of story.
The next game we wanted to talk about here is Loco Roco, which, again, I'm not sure why you wanted to talk about this game, but for some reason you put it on our list of stuff to talk about. Now, this is a game, it's an older game, it's a PSP game. We both love a lot. So, Doug, why are we talking about Loco Roco right now?
Because I want to talk about it. And I just played it for the first time recently. Like it was a game I had sort of played in the past just a little bit, but it went on sale. And when a game
It
that I'm
did.
sort of interested, when a game that I'm sort of, well, this goes for both of us.
Yep.
When a game either is sort of interesting goes on sale and it's less than $5, instant buy, instant
Absolutely.
buy.
Every time.
Oh my gosh, every time. So Loco Roco was I think 250. This game was worth $100. It's okay. It's not worth
Not
$100.
$100. I would say it was worth full price
It was definitely worth full price. Whatever the full price was back in the
for a
PSP game
PSP
days,
game
this game is worth full price. Basically, the reason I want to talk about this is because this game is not cynical.
at
Every
all.
There is nothing that is sad in this game. Everything is super happy, cheery. Like your Loco Roco smiles and sings, and he wobbles, and he lives in a wobbly world where everybody has there's just sunshine. This game is just it's just a fun game to relax to. I think that was a point that you had made earlier when we talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago. It is just a relaxing game. Uh,
Yeah,
and don't pretend like you don't like this game and like asking me why I want to talk about this one
no,
because I
I
know
love
you
this
like
game.
this game
I
too.
love this game. I was just curious why out of nowhere you're like, oh yeah, I was playing Kick and Fennik, and we're gonna talk about Resident Evil. I was playing that earlier this week, and you go, we need to talk about Loco Roco. And yeah, it's a game, and it's weird because this game came out in what, like 2007, 2008. We probably should have looked that up,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's a game neither of us played until like a month ago. I think I played it. We bought it at the same time at a PlayStation sale, and yeah, just the whole game just it makes you smile while you're playing it. Like you
Hmm.
can't be angry and play Loco Roco. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I think just there's like little details in it too that are just completely unnecessary. Like when you break your little character into when you so you I think people most people understand how this game plays. You're a big ball that sort of like rotates left and right, and you sort of like fall through the environment.
Yep.
That's that's not the important. That's not what I want to talk about though.
Forget how
What I
this
do
game
want to talk
plays.
about, yeah,
Forget what this
that
game
doesn't
is.
matter.
That doesn't matter.
What I do want to talk about is that when you break up, you turn a bunch of little Loco Rocos and they sing the song that you're playing, like whatever's the background song is playing, they sing along, and
Yep.
that there's no reason to have that in a game, absolutely none. And all of them, and they sing in harmony. Like you collect more and they start singing in harmony. I don't know, I just thought that detail was just so great, and it didn't matter if I'd been replaying this level for like the fifth or sixth time or whatever. Like there'd just be points where like I'm just gonna break my little Loco Roco because I want to hear him sing because Maybe I didn't pick up that little flower thing back there, so I'm a little frustrated. But you know what will make me not frustrated? Well, Loco Roco singing.
That will make everything better every single
That will,
time.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. You were saying that you just like this game to relax too.
Yeah, like this is just a great game. Like if it's like, oh, it was a long day at work, or I'm just frustrated about something. It's like you just pick this up and just you are smiling within minutes of playing that game. There is not a stressful thing about that game. Although I think you had a different opinion on that, but it just
Yeah.
it's just fun, and it's just there's the mechanic in it is so simple. It's not like a pressure based game. It's just you just push the left and right bumpers to rotate the world, and your little Loco Roco guy, he falls down and just goes all over the place. And I mean, there's no real major challenge to it, which I know I just complained about a minute ago, but it works for this game because it's just fun and it's just nice to see something like this as opposed to, you know, a Resident Evil or a Call of Duty or any of those other just we need to be as serious as possible style games. This one is
Hmm.
just have fun and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a point that you were trying to allude to earlier was that I found this game a little less than relaxing.
Hmm.
Was this game, if you're going to play this game, do not bother to try to collect everything. It's two different games. It's a game where you don't bother to collect everything. You're having a good time. You're just kind of chilling, relaxing, like Brad has been saying. Just a really nice, relaxing game. If you try to collect everything in that game, it is the most effing frustrating thing I have ever played. And I think I was trying to do that for the first world. I was like, no, you know, I'm going to collect all these. I'm saying this really serious, but I would needed to collect those flowers.
All
I
those damn
really,
flowers.
all
Every
those damn
last
flowers, and I
flower.
had to find all those little guys who wave at you. But it's really frustrating. I think the reason it's frustrating is because the game sort of has a rhythm with like your left and right
Yep.
bumpers. So as you move through the level, he kind of like the momentum of the Loco Roco sort of helps you as you move along through the level. Um, but because these are hidden in different areas, it sort of interrupts that rhythm. So it's like, oh, I can sit here and kind of go along on in this nice wavy area, but oh, now I got to go backtrack and start hop, 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 try to get back to this one area. It's just not very fun. Um, so I don't know if I don't know if that's something wrong with the game, but I feel that was just something that they had to add to make it more like a game. Like a game needs collectibles,
You need to have
so we're
some
gonna put
reason to replay this game because really, if you're not going for the collectibles, once you've seen it, you've seen it. Once you get the gist of it, you get the gist of it. There's no real
yeah,
reason to go back and play through this game 10 times outside of just the fact that you enjoy this game.
yeah, yeah. I think it's just a fun game to relax to, and I think it's kind of cool too that the game like doesn't let you besides the collectibles like everything is like really they make sure that everything is really in universe like whatever you're doing like the background music is actually playing in that universe to the point where they're singing along
Yeah,
like the fact that you're finding these little guys who wave to you it's like you find them because that's where they live and these flowers grow in this area. I thought that was kind of cool because you usually think like games that try not to take themselves seriously like they sort of like rely more on the gamey aspects of being a game and this one doesn't. It just focuses on being a Loco Roco,
yep.
like a little Loco Roco universe and game. And I think everybody should play this game. If it's I think it's like $6 on PSN or
Yeah, it's
something.
not expensive at all. And I mean, I'm sure those sales rotate through so much. If you ever see this game below $3 like we happen to, you need to buy it. It's so
Yeah,
much fun. And I know I
yeah,
think there's a sequel or two to it is too, isn't there?
yeah. I think there's Loco Roco 2, which I've played a little bit like way in a long time ago. I mean, these games came out like 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago. And it's basically the same game. It just has some new mechanics. It's from what I played it, from what I remember, it's just Loco Roco, but it's a little bit better. So get that.
Yeah, I haven't
I
played
don't
that one
know.
in a
I
while.
haven't played it, but I can't assume that they screwed up Loco Roco. There is some like really weird PS3 sequels though. There are these things called like Carnival Nights, where it's more like an interactive screensaver kind of thing. So I don't know a whole lot about those games, but there really is. There's only two real Loco Roco games. That's Loco Roco 1 and Loco Roco 2, and there's a bunch of other weird stuff that is not really Loco Roco, and it's more like, but it's more that in-universe Loco Roco stuff. It's just like Loco Roco's having a carnival,
Like
but it's
the
not an actual.
Rayman Raving Rabbids games. It's not
Yeah,
really a Rayman game, but he's on the cover
yeah,
for some reason.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. I actually, you know, I'm saying this like, oh, you shouldn't play those, but like in the back of my head, I'm like, if those go on sale,
Gonna buy those right away.
get those right away. Yeah.
All right, so the game I wanted to talk about here that I've been playing this past week is Resident Evil Revelations. Now, the second one just came out and it's episodic, and I haven't done anything with that because I don't know. I couldn't really get into the idea of an episodic Resident Evil game. I think it works for some, but just I'll buy it when it's the whole package at the end. I just feel like I'm gonna
Hmm.
want that as opposed to this whole weekly DLC thing. But I played through this game. It was also on sale a couple of weeks ago. It was I think $10. So
Yeah.
yay sales.
Yeah,
Um,
so why did you want to talk about this one again? Because I think you finished it recently, right? Because like last time we had talked, we'd sort of talked. You'd play like a few hours in. You had some sort of like you had some complaints about the length of certain episodes and things like that.
yeah.
But now because you beat it, do you have what's new since you've beaten it?
So I don't think we talked on here about it. Um, but my major issue with this game starting out, and Doug kind of cut to it, is this is originally a 3DS game. And they ported it over and decided, okay, we're going to take this 3DS game, which is a fantastic game. I really did enjoy this game. And we're going to put it on the PS3. We're going to put it on the Xbox 360. My issue with that is nobody decided to change this game into a console game. They decided this is a great 3DS game. Let's just make it a little bit prettier and put it here. So in this game, and this goes all the way through, and it actually gets worse the further in you get because some of the levels get shorter, but every episode, there's 12 of them, and each episode is about a half hour long, but those are broken into two or three um, different size chunks that are about 5 to 15 minutes long. So you get a 5 minute chunk, and then you see a score screen, and then you play for 10 minutes, you get a score screen. You play for another 5 minutes, you get a score screen. End of the episode, you get your big recap. Then you get a previously on Resident Evil Revelations. I hate. I hate. It does not work.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how that bugs the crap out of me. Actually, what bugs me more, besides the last time on thing, is what you're saying, where the game keeps interrupting you to tell you it's a game. Like, here's your stats for that level. It's
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, don't. I mean, I kind of like stats and stuff, but I feel like Resident Evil. I don't remember there being a whole lot of stats influence in like the original games.
yeah, and just I mean, like you said, I think you mentioned it earlier. We're both very story driven when we're playing games, and to me, it's just like I don't care. Okay, yep, I have to hit the save button. I have to hit the next button. I have to hit skip on previously on Resident Evil. Okay, now I can get back to the story because that's really
Yeah,
for both of us. That's why we're playing it, but. It's just it's so weird to have that in a console game because you don't see that. I mean, I'm fine. Let me play for 45 minutes. Give me the all right. Here's how you did the last 45 minutes. That's a good chunk of time. But 5 minute chunks, it's just slowing it
yeah,
down.
yeah. I think I don't like when console games. Yeah, I don't know like, how should they have changed that game? Would you have preferred them? They just didn't bring up those stat screens, or is it just there's like a fundamental way to the way they tell the story that because it came to consoles, you just couldn't not keep in those small chunks?
I don't know, because that's an interesting thing because the game shifts perspectives a lot. So you play as, for part of the game, you play as Chris and his partner Jessica, and then while you're doing that at the same time, you're playing as Jill and her partner Parker. And then there's also these two other characters that Resident Evil needs to stop trying to make new characters because this is like the over the top, hilarious, like oh my god, everybody's gonna laugh at these guys type of characters.
Oh, wait, were they trying to be funny in a Resident Evil game?
Oh yeah, these were like the corny
Ugh.
dumb characters, and they have there's only maybe a half hour of the game that you play as them, but it's
This is
painful.
not a knock against Resident Evil necessarily, but I feel like the game is already full of kind of corny and dumb characters. The point where they like try to purposefully do it
Yeah, and
would,
there's a couple
would
new
be a really bad idea.
there's a couple new characters that work in a Resident Evil universe and are corny and bad. There's a guy named Raymond in the game who kind of just is kind of this weird character who just kind of like shows up everywhere, and he's like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, but you kind of always have your thoughts about him like you do with a lot of these guys. But these guys are just like
Mm.
the stereotypical comic relief character in a bad movie.
Oh gosh, and the fact that like this happens with a lot of Japanese games where a Japanese game will be like, he'll find this like Japanese people will find this hilarious, and then all that gets translated into English and then presented to an American audience, and sometimes like the humor in Japanese games, especially with like the funny character, is so strange to me.
Yeah.
Like, do they have I do they have like weird animations too? Like, they don't dance or anything like that?
No,
That's
it
just
doesn't. It doesn't get that bad. No, it's just more.
okay.
It's picture a bad action movie and picture the comic relief guy on the side. That's who these two characters are. Yeah, no, overall, I really do like this game. It's a great Resident Evil game, and I think that that was needed after the last couple. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of people hate on 5 and 6, and they're not great, but
Yeah.
I don't mind them. I
Yeah.
I will never go back and replay them after I finished, and I really don't think they fit with 1 through 4. But they weren't
Mm.
bad. But this game has definitely returned to kind of that more, okay, there were a couple jump scares. There were some different style things that you see more in those first 4 games that you didn't see in 5 and 6. It's not going for the over the top Michael Bay action set pieces. There are zero of
Oh
those
my.
really in this game.
I think yeah, I think I got, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes into Resident Evil 6. And maybe, I don't know, maybe 12. I'll say I give it a half hour. I don't usually just turn off a game instantly, but like so many QTE scenes, which is something I don't even mind QTEs, but when your game starts with one and like literally there's just QTE after QT, quick time event after quick time event after quick time event. I'm like, and then there's explosions all over the place. It's like this. Nothing about this feels like Resident Evil. So, are you saying Resident Evil Revelations like that's actually like a good Resident Evil game?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I would say it's a good Resident Evil game. I think it gets back to the tightness of the first ones where you're in this confined environment. There's really not a sure way out of it. Whereas 5 and 6, you're more trying to go hunt stuff down and find things. This is for the majority of the game, you're stuck on this boat and you need to try and get off this boat. Kind of like you're stuck in this mansion, you're trying to figure out what's going on in this mansion. You're stuck on the boat, you're trying to figure out what's going on in the boat. And there's, of course, the like crazy, ridiculous Resident Evil type plots where you've got random cities just getting blown up for pretty much no reason, and terrorist groups that aren't really terrorist groups, but maybe they are, and
Yeah.
the government guy is maybe a good guy, but maybe he's a bad guy. Maybe he's the one doing this, but maybe he's not. So it's got those
So
things
it's,
in it.
yeah,
But
it's like I feel like once they like create like Ada Wong as a character, they're like everybody needs to be Ada Wong now. It's like we don't know anybody. Like who's on anybody's side? It's not. I always feel like the revelations are never like great. It's like you're kind of expecting everybody to eventually double cross somebody, so it's not like the craziest thing.
at this point, if it's not like Chris, Jill, Leon, any of the other major characters, you kind of got a feeling something bad's going to happen with them or they're going to do something weird. But yeah, overall, really good game. All right, so moving on here. Today's the first Tuesday of the month. We're recording Tuesday night. And this is the first Tuesday of the month, which is my favorite day of the month because it is PS Plus Day, which means I get to find out all of the new games that I get to play for the next 2 weeks because me and Doug are very bad at buying games unless they're on sales, we've mentioned a couple times here. So the big thing this month, which is very different from what Sony's done in the past, is there was no announcement of these games until I don't even know when it went up. I was at work. I got home from work and saw them. So I don't know when they went up, but normally they go up the Thursday, Wednesday before. So you get 4 or 5 days to go, oh man, I'm so excited to play Oddworld or
Yeah.
whatever the game happens to be that month. But this month there wasn't, and people lost it over trying to figure out what's Sony doing. Are they not giving us games? Are they going to give us super good games? What's going on? So, what were kind of some of your thoughts on that? Because I thought it was a little bit crazy the way people were reacting.
I think the way most people react to video game news in general is a little crazy. I think that if you ever feel like legitimately angry about something in video games, I think there you need to sort of rethink your priorities. Um, so first of all, I was not happy that everybody was super mad because I was like they're gonna announce them anyway. I mean it doesn't matter, and they did eventually. Um, what I was super happy about was the actual games that were announced. Like this month's games are great. I don't know how this is like I feel like people are like, oh no, more indie games. Like people who say that about this list specifically, like just don't know what these games are. These games are really, really effing good. Um, and actually, I did find out recently why there was a delay. Was that Dishonored was supposed to be a PS3 Plus game,
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
yeah, and for whatever reason, I guess the deal must have just fallen through at the 11th hour. Um, but just to recap, everybody got their games when they were supposed to.
Yeah,
We just didn't know about it. So like everybody was super mad about like the news. Although to be fair, like the news wouldn't have affected anything. Like if
no,
we knew about it 3 days ago, it wouldn't have changed that they would have gotten released today anyway.
they weren't late. They weren't a day late. They weren't a week late. It was the exact same time, the exact same update time that they've been for years. And yeah, now I think if we were recording this Wednesday night and we had no clue what the games were and they hadn't been announced and Sony hadn't said anything, then it's a very different story because this is something that people
Yeah.
have come to expect. With paying for Plus, this is a big part of why people pay for Plus. I mean, I don't do a whole lot of online gaming with my PS4 or anything. I have no reason for Plus other than the fact that I love getting 6 free games every month.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a Vita. I have. I mean, just to be clear, like I don't have a PS4. I have a PS3 and a Vita, and I get on PS Plus just for the games. Like whenever I say free, just imagine that we have like little quotes hovering over free, because like we're paying for these games. They don't exist anymore once we stop paying for these games. But you get to play through them.
And that's what really matters.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
um yeah, so with these games, they did come out, and there are some awesome ones. And we mentioned the AAA thing, and that always gets me because it's like you're basically getting these games for free. Nobody should be complaining like, oh man, Bloodborne's coming out this month. I can't believe I didn't get
yeah.
Bloodborne for free. There's a reason you're getting indie games, and yeah, they throw in a couple ones like Injustice was a couple months ago, and you got one
Hmm.
of the Arkham games a couple months ago, so you get that AAA game every couple months. But um, I just think it's unrealistic the way that people talk about this. Nobody's going to give you Bloodborne for free. I mean, I heard some
Yeah.
some website I was reading. I don't remember what website it was, but they said, "Oh, the order got terrible review scores, so there's a good chance Sony's going to give it away for free now." That's
Oh yeah.
not what
Oh,
this
that's
is
what.
for.
Yeah, everybody. The one I was reading, everybody was like, "It's gonna be knack. It's definitely gonna be knack."
It's
It's like, okay,
it's going to be knack has been the call of PS Plus since I think like
yeah,
last July.
yeah. But it's so funny because like, okay, you can't be mad. You can't be mad about AAA games and how terrible they are, and then be mad that you're not getting AAA games on PS Plus. I think it's the sort of like weird double think that we have. It's like AAA games they're worth money, but they're terrible.
So
So if
bad.
we don't get them in our if we don't get them in our PS Plus subscription, we're therefore like losing money. But I was like, no, yeah. So there's just some sort of like inherent value people have for AAA games. I actually really like AAA games, so I'm not like knocking them, but I also really like indie games a
Absolutely.
lot. And these are these sort of like weird generation that's come around recently, where they're not indie games aren't even indie games anymore.
No, not at all.
There are these like I think this is sort of the new middle tier, where these games have a pretty big budget. Um, so I guess we should just go through the games themselves.
Oddworld is one of them, new and tasty. So this is a complete remake, if I remember correctly. So I guess we should start off with we're really excited about these 6 games because neither one of us has played any of these games. So this is completely
Yeah,
based on we saw this list about 2 hours ago. I started downloading them. My PlayStation's running right here, downloading these games as I'm talking. So that's my goal when we're done with this is to go play these. So these are pretty much just our thoughts as to what we're thinking about these, not necessarily, oh, this game is this and this. So
yeah,
I've never played any of the Oddworld games before. Um, I got a couple of them because a couple other ones have been on Plus. I think it was Stranger's Wrath was on Plus like a year or two ago.
yeah, yeah.
But I never got the time to play it. So these are games that I've really been interested in, but I'm really excited to try it out because the game looks really, really good. And just I've heard great things about Oddworld for a long time.
Yeah, so Oddworld is a series like I actually have played. I played. Okay, that's not true. My family just always bought PlayStation consoles. I we never like literally we bought a PS1 and then my dad's like, well, we should probably get a PS2 then, and then well now we should probably get a PS3. There's just never any question that we should get an Xbox. Not because our family was like PlayStation fanboys. I think it's just my dad was comfortable just buying
Microsoft's
it.
terrible. Oh, Doug hates Microsoft. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, it was just to get just a familiarity with the system. So this was a series we played A World's Odyssey and Exodus, which is the first 2 games of the series, and then the series moved to Xbox, which was Munches, and then Stranger's Wrath, and um, and now it's moved back to PlayStation, kind of, but now it's on everything.
Yeah.
So every game is basically on everything now, and these games. Well, I'm not a huge fan of their gameplay, even though this is like a series I used to play a lot as a kid. Um, what I really like is the world. Like Odd World, like the reason they're called Odd World is because it's a Abe's Odyssey in it is a very small part of the Odd World universe. Um, it's just this really unique world they've created. I guess the first game is about there's this sort of like evil mega corporation, and they make this. this like power drink, just like Red Bull or something, out of people, and but it's this super evil corporation where the guys at the head have these big brains and they don't have arms, and the people who work in the factories are these like slave like people who fart and and they have like their mouth stitched. It's this really, I think it's just a really cool the world, besides just being unique, like what makes it unique is that it's both really really dark, but it has hints of being funny, and it's this huge whimsical thing. um I don't know. It's just it's a really good series. So that was the game I thought was like easily the best of all of these. And people can stop complaining because the game was $30 and now it's free, quote
Yeah,
unquote free,
and it just
as
came
I've said
out, I
before.
think, last
This is like the
October.
game that I was like, oh man, I can't wait to play this. But because I don't have a PS4, I'm actually kind of bummed that I don't get to play this. But yeah, that I thought was like that. Just if it was just Oddworld, if PS Plus this month is like, okay, we're gonna release Oddworld, like that would have been fine. Nobody should have complained because that game is great.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess the next game I kind of want that was also on PS4 is Valiant Hearts. Um,
I'm super excited about this game.
yeah, this is actually kind of cool because this is actually because we're in the well, we don't know a whole lot about this game. I know it's like set during World War II and it's sad.
That's
Um,
literally all I have, and I am super excited about to play this. The art style on it alone is just so cool looking to me, and any game that has a good story is a winner in my book.
yeah, and I think it's just cool because like last time we were talking, it's like we're just excited for these like little Ubisoft games.
And here's another one.
Yeah, here's another cool little Ubisoft game. So we played Child of Light. We talked about Grow Home. And it's like, and now we're gonna talk about Valiant Hearts eventually. So I just thought that was kind of cool. I don't think there's a lot else to say about it. Just like, okay, we're excited to play that one.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I say I don't think either one of us are too well versed on it outside of the fact that it looks really good. So, if we shift to PS3 here, one game that I'm interested in, but I know nothing about at all, again, which is kind of a pretty solid theme for me this month, but draw games that I had some interest in, is the Sherlock Holmes game, and I don't remember the subtitle on it. I think it was
Oh,
Crimes and Punishment, if I remember correctly, or something along with that.
yeah, yeah. The reason it has that subtitle is because this series actually been around for a really long
Yeah,
time.
it's like the seventh or eighth game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. And these games were like, okay, shovelware is not the right word, but these games were not good.
Really low budget, nothing
Yeah.
fancy to them.
No, and like actually, this series could feel like, oh, what the heck's a Sherlock game? This game actually was sort of got some like notoriety because it had a creepy Watson. So if you like want to go on YouTube and just search creepy Watson, like this game was like basically popular because of it, like a YouTube video about a weird glitch in it. But now it's like it's actually moved to consoles.
Yeah, and they've
And
gotten
this was
some
a big,
pretty good
yeah,
press, I feel like, from being what they were at one
yeah.
point.
Oh yeah, it's got a budget. I think that's like when it came to consoles, it's like, okay, guys, this is the Sherlock that has a budget, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
like I think it's just I think that they've spent enough effort in this one to take a huge hit and release it on consoles. Like this game is good. Like this game is good enough that and it has enough art in it that we need to put this on consoles and more people need to see it. So that's all I'm just excited to see that just because of that.
And just try it out because it's something that's been around for so long that I've never tried, which always interests me. Um, so the last PS3 game, or the second PS3 game, is, I'm probably going to say this wrong because it's got a weird name, but Papa
E
E.
yo.
Yo,
Papa E yo. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
dude, it's
there,
just Spanish. It's just Papa and I.
hey, I don't. Anyway, now that I've embarrassed myself, this is another game that I know nothing about. I considered buying it. It was on sale again a couple months ago. I considered buying it just because it looked interesting. But what are your thoughts on it?
I spent $1 to get it.
You
Um,
already have this one.
I don't. Yeah, I actually have this one. I don't want to talk too bad about it. Um,
Well, there's a
because I
yeah.
only spent about 20 minutes on it, and it was a game I actually had been following for a long time, and it's basically a coming off of Loco Roco. This is a game about a child's abusive drunk father,
Well, that sounds
and it's
cheery.
the whole game is a sort of platformer that's based around this concept of this it's basically this child escaping into their imagination, and the big monster in the game is a huge metaphor for his father and his drinking problem, which is not a spoiler because they make that pretty clear in the first like 5 minutes of the game. um, so I actually don't have a lot to say about this game. It looked kind of cool when I played on PS3 though. This is one of those games that I usually ignore technical issues, but this one was just kind of glaringly. This was like one of those glaringly obvious ones where there's a lot of pop in, a lot of slowdown and stuff. And I only
Mm,
played it for, like I said, I only played it for a few minutes. The animations were kind of wonky. I'll probably give it another chance, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it maybe not next episode. There's so much
at some
GDC
point, we'll
and
get
PAX
into
news.
some of the
Yeah,
stuff, but
yeah,
I'm
we'll
thinking
talk
of,
about that one later. So I don't want to talk too
I'm
much
thinking
about it right now.
a month right now. Between Valiant Hearts and that, sounds like it's going to be a sad month for me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Drunk
and Sherlock.
fathers and
Sherlock's called Crime
fretting
and
no more.
Punishment.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe something a little cheerier. So this one's Cross Spy. I believe it's Vita, PS4, and PS3. That is
Yeah.
Counter Spy. So, what's your take on that? I don't know much about this one either.
Counter Spy is a very cool looking game. It has a really yeah, I don't know. People are probably going to learn in this that I have a huge inherent bias for games with good art style, and this game has an awesome art style. It's basically based on Soviet era propaganda posters with that really strict geometric lines. And basically, the whole idea of the game, from what I've heard, is that you're a spy and you're breaking into both the Soviets and the U.S. Um, and stealing documents and stuff to make sure that basically nuclear like a nuclear holocaust doesn't happen. And just the whole concept of the game alone makes me go like that. This was a game this I feel bad because this is a game I was going to buy. Like
But
I
now
was
you don't
definitely
have
like
to.
I was just waiting for this to go. Like most of these games on this list, I was just kind of waiting to go on sale. And if you don't go on sale before you go on PS Plus,
I am buying you for free instead of paying anything
yeah,
for you. Yeah, I had that same thing. I
yeah,
told you I've been waiting to try Sherlock when it was under about $10 for a long time, and sure enough,
yeah,
I don't have to. But all
yeah.
right,
I
that
think
sounds
that's
cool.
gonna be that should be something we definitely talk about later in the future. Is just the PS Plus
Issues.
and buying habits
Yeah,
because they're definitely changing.
absolutely. So the last game is Ali Ali 2,
Yeah,
which is cool because this is a game that's launching on Plus, and this is something that I feel like just started in the past maybe 6 or 7 months. Is all these games that are launching on Plus, where day
yeah.
one it's free, which just is a really interesting concept. But so this is, I feel like the first one just came out last summer, maybe even only. It hasn't been out too long.
Yeah. I mean, they're not really complex games, so it's not totally crazy that there's a sequel. I mean, it's 2D graphics, and it's mostly the level art doesn't change a whole lot. It's mostly just like the level configurations.
Yep.
Um, yeah, this is actually I think this is one of the first games like you were saying that was released on Plus that wasn't released on anything else before it came to Plus. Like Rogue Legacy was one that sort of premiered. It was like the day it premiered on PS Vita, PS3, and PS4. It had already been out on PC.
Yeah.
So people are like, "Oh, this is Rogue Legacy, cool." But Ali Ali 2 like just came out. Like nobody's, I mean, not nobody. There's reviewers and stuff obviously played it, but a lot of the gaming population just has not played this game at all. I thought it was kind of cool. This is another game though. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I was gonna buy that,"
Yeah,
and
I would have paid $15 for that day one. I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting how that changes because I mean I feel like, I mean, I'm sure they have some kind of contract with Sony. I don't know the ins and outs of it to make some
hmm
money off of this, but I
oh
just feel
yeah,
like the
yeah.
amount of sales that game would have got, because the first one I haven't played it, but I've heard great things about, and I've always considered playing it, although it just seemed like a game that I feel like would really piss me off.
It will piss you off from the 5 minutes I played with it. Well, okay, that's not necessarily true. I don't want to. I actually don't want to say anything about what I think you're gonna think it is, um, because it's basically like a super hard Tony Hawk.
And I was really bad at Tony Hawk back in the day, so that's not a good sign for me.
Yeah, I was just surprised. Like, I don't know. I think that's pretty much all we have to say about LA because we haven't really played a whole lot of it. But just this whole month was just stacked with good
It's going
games.
to be a
I
good
think
month.
people, yeah, anybody. I mean, if this is an apology for being a little late, like that's fine.
Be late
I
every
actually,
month.
yeah. Well, I actually thought it was kind of cool that like you didn't know what games you're getting till that day. Like I thought that was, I don't know.
I kind of
I
like
thought that
that
was
too,
kind of
yeah.
neat. Yeah, although I'm wondering though if the reason they staggered is that it gives people a chance to like cancel their PS Plus subscription, because I was thinking like if I canceled yesterday, I would not have been happy.
Oh, yeah, not at all. We're going to move a little bit further into the future here, so I'm sure you'll hear us talk more about those games over the next month or so, because I know I'm looking forward to playing a lot of them. But we want to talk about some games that are coming out here in a while, some games that just had some recent updates here. So GDC is this week. Some of the stuff came out through that, and we just want to hit on a few major things that caught our eye. So one of the things that you brought up is Hunger, which is a new game coming out. I don't know if there's a date on it, but
No, I think it's just the coming in the near future sort of. It was like an announcement that hey, this game exists.
Yeah. So I know that's a game that you are super excited for. So talk a little bit about that one.
So first, you're going to know a little bit of history about Tarsier Studios. So the first time I had heard about them was in 2005, and I was still in high school. This game was now called City of Metrodome that had this really unique art style. Um, it's kind of similar to Psychonauts. I don't think Psychonauts at that point had been like what nobody even knew what Psychonauts was at that point. But the idea of this game was that it was a sort of action adventure platformer like Jack and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank and all those. But the one like the kind of cool thing is that this whole city has this really unique art style, and the level would react to the music that was playing in the background. So like the bass would cause platforms to lower, and this game kind of ended up being like I guess what we would consider the last Guardian of today. This game was announced, looked effing awesome, looked so cool. It was like oh, it's like a cool Tim Burton-y action adventure platformer game. Looked awesome, and then it just sort of disappeared, and people were like, "Oh, I'll bet it's going to PS3 and Xbox 360." And in the back of our heads, like, "Oh, this game still totally exists." But during that time, it was actually like quietly canceled, um, which is kind of a bummer. But Tarsier Studios thankfully lived on, and what they've actually been working on the past, I don't know how many years, is Little Big Planet stuff. They do a lot of the DLC costumes. They do a lot of just costume stuff in general. They do a lot of prop building. So they're kind of like a secondary studio to Media Molecule. So Media Molecule says, "Hey guys, we want you to design some costume. We want you to design some props for like level props, and you'll do that." Um, and then they actually released. I don't know, Brad. You haven't played Little Big Planet Vita, have you?
The only Little Big Planet I've played was 3, and I'm sure I will share my thoughts on that at some point with this when I go back to
Yes,
it and
you're
finish
very
it.
wrong opinions about Little Big Planet 3.
But
But they
anyway,
made Little Big Planet Vita, which doesn't. So this has nothing to do with Little Big Planet 3. They made Little Big Planet Vita, which is the best Little Big Planet, I think, hands down. I mean, I kind of like Little Big Planet, but this one is just much better than any of the Little Big Planets. They fixed a little bit of the physics. The jumping's still a little floaty, but it's just a really good game. The level design's really cool. It has a slightly more unique art style than past Little Big Planet games. It's a lot darker. They sort of base like the whole thing is based around a Romanian gypsy circus and marionettes and puppets and things like that. So it's quite a bit different than it actually kind of reminds me a lot of City of Metronome. I'm sure a lot of their ideas from City of Metronome sort of crept into that one. So they've been in the shadows basically. Yeah, actual news. So basically, they've just been like kind of working as a secondary studio, and they're really talented because they've just been doing like the arty stuff in Little Big Planet games. But now they finally get to make their own game, and this is Hunger. Um, oh my gosh, this trailer so good. I it was such it kind of reminded me of a very gritty Spirited Away where I think Brad, have you seen Spirited Away or no?
yeah, I have.
So in Spirited Away, there are scenes where she was in danger, like when she's like running through the cook's house and stuff like that. Like this is those scenes, except just far more dangerous and like gritty. Like if you are a little person going through this sort of monstrous kitchen, who we don't know if they eat people or something like that, then it's a dangerous atmosphere. It's just the art style in this game so striking. It kind of reminded me a lot of Coraline and a lot of Leica studios they did Coraline, they did Paranorman, and they did Box Trolls. But it kind of reminded me of that sort of I guess almost handcrafted. It looked like kind of like a handcrafted like puppets.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't even think
and
about
a
that
lot
till now, but
yeah.
that definitely has that same vibe to it. It has that same feeling of, like you said, just not really sure what's going on, and that just that look. That look is very, very similar to those movies.
Yeah, yeah, and this all comes back to like me. This is me being excited. Like this is the game they want to make. This is City of Metronome.
This,
Like
this is
this
10
game I
years
was
ago
excited for.
all over again.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're
yeah. This is
saying
like
it'll
what
never come out?
No, I'm saying that like I've been like this is like the first of many games I've been excited for like at least a decade for. Like this is my Half Life 3, my Kingdom Hearts 3, my Final Fantasy Versus 13, and then City of Metronome. Like this is like one of those like mythic games like nobody ever thought was going to come out. And like, okay, you know that game before? We're gonna make something that looks way cooler than that. And I'm just like, and finally, there's some part of me that sophomore high school version is like, don't worry, it's coming out
It's
eventually.
finally happening.
You'll be older and you'll be out of college, but it's coming.
But you'll still be
Sorry,
excited about
I'm
it.
just really excited about that. I know you don't really have a lot to say on it, but
No, I don't.
that trailer was amazing.
All I know is that that is a really good looking trailer. I don't have any history of this game at all. I saw the trailer and definitely thought that looks like it's going to be really interesting to play and see how that whole thing plays out. And the last scene where for some reason it's all underwater, where it like pans up and you,
Oh
I don't know what that was
yeah.
about, but that was just like, okay, are we going for that now? I don't know why, but hey.
Oh yeah. No, like, and I'm it's shit. If you put a city in the sea or the sky, or you put a city pretty much anywhere weird, like I'm down. That's it.
I don't care about the rest of
Oh,
your
the
game.
city's underwater. Okay, yeah, sure.
Just put your city somewhere else. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care as long as it's like yeah. Just if it's not even in America, I'm down. Just put it if it's not in America or like fantasy old England.
All right. The last piece of news we want to get here is one that I am pumped about, and it is one of my all-time favorite developers, which is odd because their games are definitely a very, very select market. But that is they put up a trailer for the first real gameplay footage from the new Amplitude game, which I am super pumped about. So this game was announced, and I believe they did a Kickstarter for it, if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
and they went through all of those things to kind of get this back. So for those of you who don't know, Amplitude was an amazing PS2 game. One of Harmonix first, that and Frequency were a couple of their early games that really kind of got them into what would eventually become Guitar Hero, and then later as they transitioned away from Activision into Rock Band. But they put up the first gameplay trailer, and this game looks like just as much fun as it was 15 years ago when it first came out, and I am so pumped about this.
yeah.
And
So when did you actually play Frequency, or um, did you get it into Amplitude, or what?
I actually played both, so I actually have both for my PS2. And just actually, when this first got announced, I think it was last summer, they announced that they were going to come back with this. I actually put it in and played it for a good solid 3 or 4 hours, just because I love these games. And yeah, so I got them. I mean, way back. It might have been at launch. It might have been shortly after, but it was way back when they came out for PS2 that I started getting into these games.
Oh, okay. So you're like, so when you say you're a Harmonix fan, like you are old school Harmonix fan.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, the only thing I will say I I bought the first Dance Central because it said Harmonix on it. Um, I can't dance. I even with that game, it was oh you can dance if you do this. Not me. No, that wasn't happening. So I haven't gotten into just or Dance Central. I don't even know. I think they're up to like 3 or something. But with the exception of Dance Central, I've pretty much played them all.
Yeah, I think actually this is I mean we don't really get personal on this, but like I met you basically because of Rock Band. Like what we played it with, oh my gosh, that was like that is I I don't know. I actually have no idea what the age listening group of our podcast is yet. It's going to be like anybody from like 15 to 40. But when we were in college, like Rock Band was big. Rock Band was like that was like the height of Rock Band was when we were in
Oh,
college. Like
absolutely.
Rock Band 1 and 2 was a big deal, and we used
Yeah,
to play the crap out of that game.
yeah. I think that was
Um,
actually my freshman year. Me and my roommate, who I'd never met before, we got in our room, sat down. This would have been just after Guitar Hero 2, which was still Harmonix. We sat down, sat there awkwardly in this room, having never met before, and after about an hour, looked at each other and went, "Hey, let's play Guitar Hero." And that was basically what we did for years and years in college, is just play Rock Band until 3 in the morning. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, even I mean everything like this game reminds me so much of one of their more recent ones, not going back all the way to PS2 era, but Rock Band Blitz, which was a really small release really for them. For the I know I have it on my Xbox 360. I believe it was probably PS3
Mhm.
as well, but which is a very similar style game where you're going through and you're trying to hit these notes going down a track just using a controller as opposed to the crazy assortment of plastic instruments that you have. So I'm really excited about this. I'm looking forward to this, and there's no way in my mind that this is not going to be one of my favorite games.
But so what do you think? So I don't actually quite understand the difference between this and Rock Band Blitz. Like I mean, Rock Band because when I saw like Rock Band Blitz come out, it's like, oh, this is them doing frequency and amplitude. So is this and basically this like amplitude? This new amplitude is which is going back to the old school amplitude, but it's all original music. I think that's a big thing that's either gonna either sell or make this game tank is because the old Amplitude was like Rock Band and Guitar Hero and stuff where um, this was all it was all licensed
Yep.
music. So Amplitude, the new Amplitude, unlike the old Amplitude, is not licensed music. It's all original creations from some pretty cool artists. So it's not going to
It's
say
not
it's
just
bad music or anything like
yeah
that.
terrible music, but
Um, so like it's exciting I am about this game. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna come to the music, which you can't really listen to. You can't just like, oh, they're not gonna release the whole soundtrack
no,
to.
absolutely.
They might.
Probably after it's been out for a little bit, but I mean that's gonna be half the fun of it is playing through this music, and that's what I've always liked about it is, I mean I'm a big music person to begin with, so just having this interaction with music, whether it's through the crummy plastic guitar that I ended up breaking like three of because I used too much, or just playing with it on an old PS2 controller, whatever it happens to be, just that interaction with it, and that's what I'm really excited about. And just, I mean, new music, original music. I mean, those guys at this point have proven to me that they know music. I mean, the song
hmm
list that they've picked have been what I mean really started to separate Rock Band out, and what I think really helped make Rock Band stand out was that sound, the song selection, and even song selection with all the DLC. I mean, I mean, I don't know what the last count was, but thousands of DLC songs. I mean,
Oh
they
my
always have a
gosh,
strong
yeah.
selection of music. So, just
And who knows what they're announcing at PAX?
I've been when there was this rumor going around, I think I just messaged Doug like 20 times a day, just going, "Oh my God, Harmonix is announcing something. Hopefully, it's Rock Band 4. Maybe it's Frequency again. Maybe it's a new Rock Band. I don't care what it is. I'm excited." But yeah, so that's gonna kind of wrap it up for us this week. Hopefully, we're getting better at this again. We're still new. Episode 2. Couple things we just want to mention here at the end. We're going to try and start setting a schedule with this. It's been kind of random so far. Doug, I believe our schedule is going to be we're going to try and record over the weekend at some point and then release on
Yeah,
Monday, right?
yeah, exactly. So we're gonna try to record on like Friday, Saturday, cut on Sunday, and edit. And like the reason we did this is because a lot of video game like there's no video game news that happens over the weekend. Not no, I mean
Significantly reduced.
yeah, significantly reduced because I mean people aren't at work. Like people who send out PR messages and like upload trailers and stuff aren't at work. So
And also, we're not at
um,
work.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to like catch up on all the news from that week, and release it on Monday. Um, yeah. So I guess I don't know if you want to wrap us up, Brad.
So, again, thanks, you guys, for listening. Feel free. We're on Twitter. It's Darksliders_pod, if I remember correctly. I'm not
Yes.
good at Twitter. Doug is doing all the Twitter stuff. But feel free to. I sounded really old there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Please subscribe to us. On both SoundCloud and on Twitter. I hate when people ask to do that. But basically, it's just honestly like I'm realizing now. It's just to see like what the general interest is in our podcast and whether or not we should keep going. Like it doesn't really matter to we're not making any money off this, so it'd just be cool to see do people want to listen to us, and that the only way we know is through subscriptions and plays and things like that. So we apologize for asking you to subscribe to that stuff, but subscribe to us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod. We also have we have our SoundCloud, which is probably what you're being listening to, and we also have a YouTube account that's just Dark Sliders Podcast. That'll be in the description of our SoundCloud
Yep.
episodes.
But yeah, let us know. Send us things if you hate us, if you think I'm annoying, if you think Doug's annoying. Just give us something because we don't really know what we're doing and we're just doing this for fun. So if you all hate this, then maybe it'll go away. But if you guys like it, then hopefully we can keep doing stuff like this. So uh, thanks everybody for listening. We will put a new one up on Monday.